Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. My name is Daryl Urbanski, your host as always. And today we are joined by Kelby Smith, the founder of His Advocates. His Advocates is a movement helping Americans reclaim personal and financial sovereignty. Since 2012, he's taught people how to live free from debt traps, overtaxation, and government overreach by reviving the original intent of the U.S. Constitution and state citizenship. His new book, What Does It Mean to Be an American?, hit #1 on Amazon in multiple freedom categories. Kelby blends law, faith, and practical wisdom to challenge the modern system treating people like property. I've asked him to join us here today to share his story and talk about liberty, responsibility, and how to live as a truly free human being in a controlled world. So, Kelby, thank you so much for joining us, man. How you doing?
I appreciate you, Daryl. How are you doing?
I'm good. I've been looking forward to this because I think I told you when we first met, I was a teenager. Actually, I just told you about that when I was in Caramias, BC, British Columbia, when I was hiking with my girlfriend. That
Yeah.
same time, there was a guy in this small town handing out little booklets, maybe 30 pages, folded in half, clipped, and it said something. I have a copy in my house, in my box in my hometown in Canada, but it said submission, registration, application means bend over, pull, drop them, and don't expect lube. And I remember I read it, and the whole thing was talking about the legal jacket that you
Yeah.
register your birth certificate because his wife had a child prior to meeting him, and the government took it, and there was no cause for it. They just, some psychopath in their town had power tripping, and it was my first, and I was 17, 18 at the time. So anyways, before we even get into any of this, how did you get into this? Is this like a family? Were your
No,
parents
this is
advocating?
insanity to want to do anything like this. This is crazy stuff. I don't want to be the conspiracy nut job on top of the hill. I got in I'm a real estate broker by trade. I've done thousands of loans. I've had thousands of employees. I've been very successful. I 2008, there was about a 6 month period of time where nobody lent money. And I talk about it in my book. What does it mean to be an American? Had this one employee named Don tell me I needed to go see somebody at some weekend conference. I'm like, I don't got time, Don. I'm trying to save a company, this, that, and the other. And he's all, no, you're gonna go. And he got all excited and hyped it up and pointed at me. And if you knew who Don was, for him to get angry or hyped was like a big deal. And so I'm like, all right, I'll check it out. Anyway, long story short, I ended up going to this conference and I thought, this is all bull. There's no way the United States is a corporation. There's no way that there's another way for citizenship here in our nation. And I went down this matrix portal for 6 months and I started investigating the law, which I put together here in the book for everybody. And I found hundreds of Supreme Court cases that were so hard to find that are not on LexisNexis, not on Westlaw. They bury these. And then I went to the archives, pulled them out, and the archives attorney was calling me a sovereign citizen, and that's not I'm like, just go get the dang case and shut up, kind of a thing. And they bring the case up and I start reading it. And I remember going like, okay, really? Look at the case and tell me now, what does that say? And it was like those kinds of moments for that first 4 years from '08 to like 2012. And then I finally formed His Advocates because I went down, I learned about a passport process from somebody else, and then I fine tuned it and honed it in from 2012 to 2016. And here's what we do. We apply to be a state citizen because a United States citizen is actually an employee of the United States. And we went down and we said, we are not United States citizens. And we gave our allegiance to the Declaration of Independence. We said we are State of the Union citizens, and we cited a bunch of cases. We didn't put a social security number on the application. We didn't do a few things that are normal on the application, and we changed the DS-11 form entirely. And lo and behold, I get a passport. I'm like, shut the front door. And it really blew my mind. It changed kind of the scope of everything. And so 11, 12, 13, 14, I started reverse engineering really warrants and indictments. And what I mean by reverse engineering is reading and creating systems that are the opposite for people so that the federal government can't gain jurisdiction over them. And I show people how to live in the private. I create private foundations. I know the form requirements that you need to be if you're going to be employed. I know the elements of what you have to do with the IRS, the DMV, the DOD, the DOS, the SSA, all these agencies we handle for people. And just FYI, we've been doing this going on 14, 15 years. And as his advocates for the last 13 years. And in the knowledge of this, I have helped tens of thousands of people. Nobody's complained, nobody's gotten any visits, and nobody files another return again. Here's why. In the IRS code, there is a thing called revocation of election. We do a trifecta against the IRS. Number one, if you're going to want to be bulletproof, you've got to make your status, and that's done with the Department of State. You can do it in any country, really, to be frank with you. They might deny you, but you still can do it. And then that would be your allegiance. And you can order certified copies of your passport application. Like what we do is we do the passport application, we get the passport, and then we order certified copies. Now we have what's known as evidence in any federal court, which is the certified copies of the passport application. And now we can use that as our jurisdictional position in any case or anything that were to come against us. So this trifecta consists of a notice of status to the IRS with what we've done at the DOS for our passport. We do a revocation of election, and then we do basically a removal of signature, which is super important. The one thing that everybody neglects, because you've given them previously authority to use your signature through a Form 56. Bottom line is this: when you're done using an administrative process, which in law, under the federal rules of procedure, you're creating a new court of record. Then we put that into the public and we serve them with constructive notice. Obviously, much more to it. We help people from start to finish, but we free people here on this land without having to go to foreign countries, creating their own country, buying islands. And I have people that are in the value range of billions of dollars that we save 10 plus million a month in taxation on. So
Right.
it's a working system.
Let's break this down because, okay, we just told people it's possible. And, inherently, we all kind of know things are a little weird sometimes. And I brought this up in other interviews as well. So I'm involved with another company, another product called the Oasis Biohome. It's a self-sufficient, semi-prefabricated home, food, power, water, self-sufficiency. And we've got people from all over the world that are buying it. And sometimes we get people that are in like a state that want to build one, but the state prohibits them from collecting rainwater. To me, it's so mind-boggling because I'm like, I'm not allowed to collect what falls from the sky. Like,
let me address this because I help people all over this country take code enforcement and shove it up the you know where. As a real estate broker, I'm an expert witness on, and I can be considered an expert on deeds and land and property more than probably attorneys. And just because of my experience, I have gone to lunch with title attorneys that work for big firms, and they sat there with their jaw dropped telling me there's no way I can do meets and bounds on a deed with fee simple as the title vesting in California. And I'm like, bro, I'm telling you, I do it all the time. And they're like, no, you don't. I'm like, yeah, I do. And here's the thing. Here's how they nail everybody, brother. A deed in the 1800s used to be meets and bounds with a real man's name on it, or a company that was not registered. It was private. I mean, they didn't form the word registration, a whole nother word, and I'll deal with that with you in a second. But a real man or a company that was private And it's super important that all the entities I create are private. They are not public. They are 100% unregistered, and there is zero jurisdiction over them. So when you get this through your mind, private versus public, registration versus unregistration, your lights will turn on in your head. You're going to go, oh my God. So when you go down to the recorder's office, you can record or you can register. There's both of those names there. The recorder's office has been around for hundreds of years. The registrar's office has been around since the bankruptcy of 1932. So when you go down with your deed, watch this. And your deed says joint tenant. It has a legal description on it, which is heir, and you're recording in a birth certificate name or a corporation name. Just those three things right there say they got jurisdiction. They can register because it belongs to them. You said you're a tenant and you're registering in a name that they own. I'm not going to get into this with you. I'll be more than happy to explain it at the summit or whatever, but the BC belongs to them. The
Right.
live born record from the hospital belongs to you, the mom. She gives it up to the state. The birth certificate means abandonment certificate. That's one of the definitions for birth. They put it into the public, put it on 32-pound watermark banknote paper. They register it, monetize it. That name, your all caps name, belongs to them under Uniform Commercial Code 9, registered organizations. The point being, if you register or you bring a deed, with all these points of interest using Federal Reserve notes, using a legal description, using their name, and calling it joint tenants for vesting, where's your title? You
Right.
have none. You have none.
Right.
So what we do is we register in a foundation that we create. We use gold on the deed. We use meets and bounds, and we use fee simple absolute, which is we get it registered. Now you've taken the property from registration to recordation because they can't take ownership of it. A foundation owns it. The beautiful factor is I can take code enforcement, tell them to go pound sand. This property is our property, absolute to the center of the earth. And they can't do anything about it because that's what fee simple absolute means. So they can't battle you on a legal description because you own land, you don't own air. If you had
Right.
a legal description and you were a joint tenant and you were filing as a renter, which is a joint tenant,
Right.
and you're screwed, glued, and tattooed because they can control the rainwater because you don't own the land. They do.
Right. So, okay.
Period.
So because there's going to be a lot of different types of people that hear this, and you've got black belt eyes. And what I mean by that, I had a friend that had a mixed martial arts school in Miami, and he done martial arts his whole life. And so you're always looking for someone that's better than you. And one of the ways he knew someone was better than him is if they could kick him in the head. So when he started his own martial arts school, he made sure that every time that new student came to class, he'd kick him in the head, because then of course they would want to join because of how great he is. He could kick him in the head.
Really?
And he couldn't figure out why people weren't coming back to his classes. So I want to try to break this down a little bit and to help people get, because you're in the weeds so much every day. That's why I say you black belt eyes. For the person that's new to this, it's like, this sounds crazy.
What
Yeah.
you're saying is hilarious to me
Dude,
because
I love that.
Yeah, I got an honorary black belt because of what we do from a badass. But go ahead.
Awesome. So listen, so it sounds like modern governance has turned men and women into managed assets rather than sovereign souls.
Beautifully said.
There's a spark of life. That spark of life is a miracle of life. It is like rain from the sky and sunlight. And for someone to say that they own it inherently is just not true. It's like saying I own that star in the sky. It's just nonsense, because we're all here like the ants, like we're just here. We exist. That's a miracle. And now so your state citizenship kind of frame, it's not about denial of US law. It's not about saying the law doesn't apply to me in any way. It's about reviving the original federal balance where the states were sovereign entities and individuals were citizens through their state, not wards of Washington. Is that
Well,
correct?
the citizens, just to correct you real quick, are the state. The people are the government. And that's just a fact in law. And so when we understand that we didn't affix our signatures to the declaration, and when our parents conjoined and got a marriage license, and then they gave the baby, the product of the union, over to the state. I have a Supreme Court ruling on marriage license that says the product of the union, anybody that has a marriage license, it says the product of the union belongs to the state. That's their permission to take the child from you, along with you confirming it on the live born record, the mom only signing it as informant and parent and signature, 3 words right on the signature line for the mom. The word signature means attest to the validity of the instrument. This is Black's Law. Go
Yeah.
confirm this yourself. Inform means one who turns one over, and parent means judicially decreed guardian. All in one signature. She's agreeing to the validity of what she is doing, turning her child over to the state, agreeing to becoming a guardian for that child for the remainder of the child's life. It's that simple.
Certificates are new, right? Birth certificates are like 100 years old or something like that, isn't it?
It depends on what state you're talking about, but yeah.
Quick search. England, data related to births were recorded in church registers in the 1500s. The formalization began in the 19th century, formalizing the United Kingdom in 1853. In the United States, the first major step towards standardized birth certificates came in 1902. So we're talking just over 100 years, 120 years ago.
Right. It wasn't a widely accepted practice till about the bankruptcy of the United States.
And that was, so we've got the Articles of Confederation, 1777, defined citizens of each state for the federal union. The Constitution created a compact among the states. And then I guess there's the slaughterhouse cases, 1873.
There's the Slaughterhouse, Dred Scott versus Stanford, Barron versus Baltimore, Chisholm versus Georgia, Calder versus Bull. There's
Hundreds.
That describe 2 citizenships here, period.
Right.
And what we did is we compiled it in a book. And what does it mean to be an American? And we took the book, we ran it by an attorney who vested the cases that are inside of the book and made sure every one of them were shepherdized, which is active case law today. We only had to take 1 or 2 out, and we ended up going to add a couple more in. There's hundreds that are not in this book that are hidden from the people that have already been decided that there's a federal citizenship under the 14th Amendment. 14th Amendment was not about freeing black people, it was about enslaving America. And the way that they could do that was the starting of the 14th Amendment, the taking of the gold, and then making the people the sweat equity, the collateral, and the backing and the surety for this nation. And that's why it says we the people, or the fiat currency for America, over the treasury, which is the backing of the treasury on the debt side of the bill. People just don't understand what's in plain sight before them. All we're doing is we're taking the law and we're making it apply to us. That's all we're doing. And we're saying to the IRS, because I have a case in here that says state citizens are not taxpayers. So we're taking the relevant fact of us being a state citizen confirmed by the Department of State, doing a notice of status, doing a notice of non-signature or removal of signature, and then doing an IRS revocation of election. It's a total of 9 letters. Each one of those 3 letters, we do a fault and a default, which makes it a court of record. In those 9 letters, we perfected your exit from the IRS, period. Now, you can go back into contract if you wish, or you can just stay outside, but they can't bother you. You guys got to understand something. And we have people with big issues. We have people with $1 million tax liens, and we've figured out how to still get them a passport. If somebody has a child support issue, it might cost them about $7,000, but we can overcome that hump too. The bottom line is your right for sovereignty is absolute. And it's not a sovereign citizen. We don't play that game. It's a monkey game that they created. We want to just be free under God. We want to have God-given unalienable rights, and which, if you read the case laws, we put them in this book. If you're a U.S. citizen, you don't have access to the Bill of Rights. And that's something people need to understand. It's like, why is it they preach that? Well, it's because that's for Americans. And just because they're calling out the word American on Fox News, that doesn't mean it applies to you.
That's like the Federal Reserve. It's not federal and it's not a reserve. You know, it's
100%.
1984 where the Ministry of Truth, everything's upside down and backwards. So you mentioned the 14th Amendment. So again, you're saying that it forked citizenship. It created federal protection for freed slaves, but over time it's changed.
Do you understand that capitalization in words and the use of those words imply
Capitalization. This is where people, I think, get tripped up. You mentioned Black's Law. There's Black's Law dictionary. When you look up the word must in the legal dictionary, it means you may. It means it's optional, but it says
Right.
must. You must submit da 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 da. But when you look it up in the law
Right.
dictionary, it actually means you may, which means it's optional,
Right.
which is
Right.
this fucking shell game of language
Right.
used
Right.
to entrap people and ensnare them. And it's
It's
just
the
complete.
same thing with the word person. Person is only speaking of a corporation. It's not speak. You will not see the word man in United States code. You won't. And the word state, all capitalized state, is a and I've broken this down on multiple trainings. It's definitely different than the lowercase state, where like state of California. Let me give you a quick story. I went to the state of California, Library of Congress. I walk in, I asked for the 1849 Constitution, and I asked for the 1879 certified copies, please. And they said it's X amount of dollars. And they said, "Are you one of those sovereign citizens?" And I said, "What is that?" And like, don't people ask for a copy of the Constitution? And we started talking, going back and forth. And I read the 1849. And then I said, "Let me ask you a question." And I put my hand on the 1849 Constitution. I said, "Is this still active law today?" And he said, "Yes." And I said, "Oh, you're one of the few that know." And I said, "So if this is active law today, you can simply Google that and you'll see the 1849 Constitution is active law." I said, and I slid the 1879 close and I said, "Show me in this one where it adopts, annuls, alters, abolishes, changes anything, any reference to the 1849 Constitution." And his freaking jaw dropped because he knew it forgot to do that, which
Right.
means that is a document set on itself. Now that I set the tone of the word state, all capitalized, is a community of persons. Black's Law Dictionary, go look it up. State lowercase, the California original, state lowercase is a body of people. Two different definitions. So you have a bunch of corporations laid over a bunch of de jure. Like, for example, I live in Orange County, California. There's the Orange County newspaper. It's 100 and some odd years old. So why did they change it from Orange County to County of Orange? All they did was overlay it, and there's two jurisdictions sitting here, just like the federal government. The
Right.
federal government has two jurisdictions, one that has to honor the people, and then one that has to honor the persons, the serfs, the people that hold an office called U.S. citizen, and they hold an office called driver, and they hold an office called voter, and they hold an office called tax person, tax, whatever, U.S. tax person, like that little affidavit on the top of the 1040. I agree to be a U.S. person and taxpayer. Those are terms, all capitalized, have definitions that you're agreeing to when you're submitting your taxes voluntarily. And if you
Right.
don't think they're voluntary, tell me where you co-signed anything with any agent at the IRS.
Well, this is the part of it because then it's you're born into servitude. That's part of the issue at the beginning. Just because, there's different communities that are everyone's trying to wrap their brains around what's going on. COVID was a big wake up call for a lot of people. And there's something called network state. But anyways, it's a community of people in a conference where people are trying to figure out how to found a new country so they can get the chains off them. They don't like the strings. And I think it was Francis, I have to look it up, but Francis did an essay called The Law. And then he talks about how law is usually there to protect private property rights and something else. But ultimately, what happens is the people who are savvy in law end up using it to pillage those that aren't savvy in law. He was a libertarian, but that was the whole key thrust of his thing, that law naturally evolves towards socialism and that it's also systemically. It's used to pillage. but its core intent is true. And we kind of have to manage this balance because we live in a community. So we need some sort of mutual agreements. There's religious law. Moses gave us the 10 Commandments and all this legal law, which was the Jews trying to codify the law so that they could please God and live up to the deal that they made, that they would be the chosen people. And that's the big divide between Judaism and Catholicism and Christians, is that Jesus came and he was a Jew and he's the one that lived the perfect life that the Jews were supposed to do. And so God sacrificed him to go, okay, all that previous agreement we had is done. We got a new agreement. Anybody can be saved. There's no chosen people anymore. You guys failed. You did all this to codify it, blah, 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 blah. And so now we're at this place where people are trying to figure out how this works. And so I guess what we're saying when it comes to the 14th Amendment, I think it's Article 4 states that the citizens of each state shall be entitled to all privileges and immunities of citizens in the several states. And that's the differentiation, I think, that I'm not a lawyer. I'm trying to have one foot where you are so deep in this every day. And if this were an interview full of lawyers, they would all get it. And then people that are just like, I feel something's wrong. And I was born into this. And now because I'm born into this, now I got to do this. I got to go to the fucking DMV. I got to pay this taxes. And they'll close my bank account. And it's like, I didn't opt into this system. And there's people trying to figure out how this works. And so I guess that's where we talk about like personal domain, communal domain. How do we, this moral stance and aligning this with sort of natural law? Can you speak to that a little bit?
Percent. So in the 14th Amendment, number one, I explained it in my book, but
yes,
in a nutshell,
Go get the book, people. Spend the $3.
Look, we're not doing it for any other reason than to give you data and information. You can do it a paper book for $17.76. The bottom line is our heart is to be able to give people a solid piece of information that'll forever change the scope and plans for their life. So going back to the 14th Amendment, just to very much simplify this, words mean everything. And if you look at the original Constitution, the word citizenship was capitalized, and it was not a possession of the United States. It was speaking of citizen of the several states. Secondly, the citizen of the 14th Amendment was lowercase, and it was a possession of the United States. And so that offer of citizenship to the Black people was also at the same time an offer of citizenship to everybody that desired to be a party to the corporation. Now, how do you become a party to a corporation? Well, you got to get people to individually contract to the corporation. Well, we got to get rid of the gold standard first, because the assets of the people are still in support of, meaning there's actually gold. So from 13 to 33, they stole all the gold.
Right.
And in 1933, they basically bankrupted the entirety of the United States corporation. It's called HJR 192 in the book. I don't want to keep extrapolating what the book will easily explain, but the bottom line is this. Once the bankruptcy hit, the only two things that matter are creditors and debtors. That's it. And so what did they try to do? They wanted to make everybody become an employee. So what did they have? The Buck Act, Trading with the Enemy Act, Social Security Administrative Act, Emergency War Powers Act, which was the second party to the Trading with the Enemy Act. Those things outlined that first, SSA, you became an employee of the United States. Secondly, the Trading with the Enemy Act made the United States citizen an enemy combatant and belligerent against the United States. They added that because the creditors were literally, in sense, having a financial war against the people, and the people, by their own voluntary servitude, would give up their right, because remember, they were in a massive 1929 to 1934, there wasn't milk, there wasn't anything. You weren't able to eat. You were standing in bread lines, this, that, and the other. What's there to do? Well, let's all become an employee of the United States. And there was a totally different thought process. Let's go get the social assurance program, social security program, guarantee for retirement. Let's work for the next 20 years, and we're going to have a payout that's going to be X for the remainder of our lives. This is the best thing since sliced. Everybody did it. And what happened? The 50s, the 60s, bliss. Okay, it was a beautiful life. People started getting paid out on their Social Security. And I don't want to get into all the mess of that, but there's always continual war. There's always ways to try to feed the beast, if you will, try to feed the creditors. But now we're at a point where they are liquidating the debt.
Right.
And they're selling the assets just straight up publicly, and you have this war, if you will. And I don't think Trump is necessarily all for the people. I think he's mostly for the people, and he thinks he can bring them maybe into a new age, new realm of digital currency. If you read the Genius Act, you are screwed in the future. It's called the social. It's basically the same thing that China's offering its people.
Social credit score, yeah.
Yeah, the social credit score system. So the bottom line is the Genius Act is going to lay out the social credit score system for this nation. They're going to move everything from fiat into digital. And the people that are the debtors, and that aren't pre-planned and aren't ready, and where their property, and this is how they're going to come at a blanket and steal their property back. And this is how they're, and I can go in with how they already own all the titles to the cars. Dude, this is one of the things that
Big.
I was blown away on. True title on a vehicle is a manufacturer's statement of origin, not from the state. So it's let me show you real quick. Hold on.
Yeah, okay. So while you're going to get that, you talk about the digital currency, the social credit score, the tracking of everything. It's more and more really, like you said, dividing. You said creditors and debtors. The world is moving in a dystopian direction, unfortunately. And that's why I wanted to have you on the podcast. I found out about a month ago that the Pentagon had a project called LifeLog that got canceled the exact same day Facebook was founded. And LifeLog was a project to build a database tracking a person's entire existence. You can look this up. It was canceled in February 4th, 2004. And that was the same day that Facebook was established. You go to the Facebook page, founded.
Where everybody voluntarily gives up their place where they're at, their pictures of their family.
I'm hopping on a flight. This is where I am.
And yeah, check it out. Yeah. So this is an MSO.
Okay.
This is from Honda. It's not from the state of California. Right. It looks exactly like a certificate of title. This is actual title. This is actual title on another one directly from the manufacturer. I own the titles. I don't need to register these. I can if I wish, but I own the titles, and this is holding true title. So what they do at the dealer is they take the title from Mercedes, Honda, whoever, and you sign off on the purchase. You don't own the title. They give the title to the state. The state issues you a certificate of title upon completion of payments. The certificate of title is not title. Just like your registration on your home, your deed that you think you have is not title, because it's a legal description. It's a joint tenant. It's using Federal Reserve notes. It's recording in a name that they own. Right. So when your mom gave that title to the state owns that name. They incorporated it, all capped it, put it into the public, created what's called a Sesquitv trust. It's a corporation, and said, hey, father, where are you? Come and make a claim. No father signed the BC. No father signed the live-born record, and the state now becomes the father. Literally. We fail for a lack of knowledge. And so it's just lucky that I've done the amount of real estate transactions that I've done, the amount of loan transactions, to understand contract and understand words and how they matter, and know what a deed is and know what a loan is. And what we're getting are not loans. And I don't want to get into that. It's all fraudulent, all of it. Right. And so they've literally swiped out from underneath us true title. You frame some words to make you think it's true title, and then you're holding nothing. So these executive orders to come and steal the land of all the people, which they are going to do one day, they will not be able to touch people that have what is known as a lodial or fee simple absolute title, which is what I teach people how to get. And I can get it in all 50 states. And again, for people that are skeptical, I want to point out, look at what happened to Hong Kong. Everybody forgot about Hong Kong, but this is exactly what China did with Hong Kong, whereas they got legal grounds first, and then they rolled in the police and the support and all that sort of stuff. And people say that they're doing this already with Taiwan. They're trying to build the legal framework so it's not an act of war, and it's more they can roll over into a police state because they legally have the rights to X, Y, and Z.
And this is sort of the evolution of war. As more people have mutually assured destruction, because that's what everything's built on, a foundation of, because originally might made right. And I don't need to worry about this. He said, she said. I know what I feel is good and bad, and I've got a club, and I'm going to club you over the head, and you're dead, and I'm right. And we move forward. And so everything's been designed as a proxy for violence. And that's where we built this up so we can be civilized people. And I looked up, it's Frederick essay, The Law, talks about exactly how the law is then been used, because no one ever removes, Elon Musk said this, no one ever goes back. In my hometown in Canada, it's illegal to park your horse downtown between the hours of 3:30 and 7:30 p.m. No one's riding horses. So no one removes law. So now it's those that are savvy in the ways that can navigate it, can use it to pillage as they see fit. And so lawfare is going to be, to a certain extent, the new battleground. People that get this and don't get this. And the people that don't get it, you're livestock. You're tax-paying livestock. You are just an apple tree waiting to be harvested by the farmer at any point in time. Just like ranchers farm cattle and a rice farmer farms rice, governments govern people, and they farm people, and they don't care about you. I mean, on my farm, we just killed 150 chickens 2 weeks ago because we had things we want to get done.
United States citizens are held under the Department of Agriculture as chattel.
And I don't think this is unique to the United States.
No, no, bro, you just hit it on the head. I can take people down the road of where Australia is registered in New York as a corporation. It's in the Securities and Exchange Commission, where people and their birth certificate equivalents are placed there for monetization. What's happening right now is the IMF is going to each and every country and making a deal with the kings, much like what the Bible says. Kind of a little awkward there, but making deals with the kings to sell their assets and their future assets, and they're gathering the birth certificates of the people and registering them under the Securities and Exchange Commission. So you're looking at what could be known as the modern day Babylonian system under the Securities and Exchange Commission in Washington, D.C. Washington, D.C., it's a demonic thing. Don't want to get into it with people if they want to look at our studies that we've done. I've done 20-minute studies on the Washington, D.C. and all the symbolism that's in it.
Yep.
But the bottom line is there is a light and dark war happening in the world right now, without a doubt. And the people have a choice. They can continue to be the surety, the collateral, the debtor, or they can now operate above reproach and be the creditor and the actual king that God wants them to be. We are not called to be anything but to have sovereign authority here on this land, Genesis 6. And the bottom line is that once people start behaving that way, their paperwork, their lifestyle will reflect. And when people don't behave that way and they get caught up in being scared, like if you're a king and you have a kingdom called the IRS across the street, what are you going to do? You're going to build a freaking castle. If you can afford it, you're going to build a moat. You're going to get some alligators. You're going to have a super huge drawbridge, a bunch of guys you're going to hire to guard the castle. Yep. Most people are just saying, okay, our castle doors are open. Come on in. Please don't.
Well, they don't know. Again, not everything in the jungle kills you and eats you. Some things feed on you. Like our devices. Mine doesn't ring, beep, vibrate, nothing, because it's my tool. And Leonardo da Vinci, Michelangelo, these people, the chapel, these people had multiple PhD degree, like quality educations in multiple fields. Now someone gets a PhD in one field. And why? Because they have a PhD in SpongeBob. Like our heads are full of so much nonsense that's not related to anything. And it's a huge distraction. Hollywood, if you look it up, Hollywood was the tree that wizards made their wand from. And entertainment is to entrance someone. So everyone is so absorbed in this. This is happening. And meanwhile, everything that all your ancestors have worked for, the blood, sweat, and tears, is being wiped away. And it's being allocated as people see fit. I'm from Canada, and what I see happening in Canada right now breaks my heart, because it's not the country that I knew growing up. And it's just a real, history of the world has changed. History of the universe has changed. And you just have to choose what side you're going to be on. People need to buy the book and get educated.
You're not even able to walk in the forest in Nova Scotia, Canada. And then to have the audacity to tell the people that have homes inside the forest, you can't leave your home? Really?
Right. This is nonsense. So wait, you're
Yeah,
telling me how much rainwater I can collect? Forget God. Just okay, you don't believe in God. Okay. Water falls from the sky based
yeah,
off of the universe working. And
right,
this group of people are telling me I can collect it or not? What are you going to ration my sunlight now?
right,
Sorry, sir, you've had too much oxygen today.
right. No, that's literally the social credit score systems is get people used to that concept and idea. But no, I've helped a lot of people. There was an Amish farmer that they stalemated, and I showed him exactly where in the law they nailed him and what he can do to protect himself and still stay private. There's all kinds of people all over this country that if they just had knowledge based information, like what the court in their area says about that, what they're trying to do against that person, you can easily call forth a Supreme Court case to quelch anything that has to do with code enforcement. Code is
Right.
not above the
Yeah.
law.
Well,
The
I'm just bringing
laws
it
are
up as
all
an
code.
example because I'm trying to make it real for people. Like the people need to understand. And so, first off, like I got no dog in this fight other than kids that I want to see live a prosperous, free future. And
Yeah,
even right now, people already get the idea of the currency debasement, right? The fact that you spend your life energy to stack a pile of cash that you're hoping to spend. And when they print money, they're literally stealing your life energy from you. And so now, on top of that, everyone's waking up and realizing. I mean, it was a huge wake up call for me. My wife and I agree we're never going to live in a condo or an apartment again because we got locked down twice in our condo because of decisions other people made. We just woke up, police surrounded the building. We were in Vietnam. Talk about communist, socialist system. We had CCTV camera in our living room in the thing. Like, this is, I've seen where, like, I've lived on the other side, so to speak, and it's a great country if your laptop class from not from there, but the locals, I mean, people say the Philippines is cheap in a third world country. Philippines go to Vietnam to go on a vacation where their money goes a longer way. Like I love Vietnam. I had a great time there, but the people are like in a lot of ways trapped. It's hard for them to get out because they just have no purchasing power, and there's a
yeah,
huge crypto community there that's trying to escape this. And so I feel like I've seen on both sides. People need to get educated on this if you care at all and you don't want to just be like a chicken in a coop. Listen, the zoo can be very comfortable. You'll get fed twice a day. People will come and poke at you for entertainment. You'll be kept warm and safe unless they've got other things they want to do and they neglect you. And then you're trapped in your house and you can't step outside and people are
right.
just following orders and just doing their job. And sorry, you need to show your vaccine pass to go here or there. This is such nonsense. This is where we have to learn to coexist with everybody. And at the same time, we also need to fiercely protect our sovereign rights, or else someone else is going to, if they can, they will. People in my
Right.
hometown, the university did a study on squirrels. And they found that if they had recorded a squirrel stealing the buried nuts of another squirrel, when they were burying nuts and a squirrel saw them, they would finish burying it, leave, come back and move it when that squirrel was gone. But the squirrels that never stole nuts, they'd be burying their food. They'd be like, oh, hey, what's up, George? And then they just keep burying it and then walk away because they couldn't fathom that sort of behavior because they wouldn't do it themselves. And that's what I think we're up against in a big way. Is people like, this is nonsense. I would never do. Most people are good. Yeah, most people are good. How many psychopaths do you need in a crowd, in a van, in a crowd before you have a bunch of injured and murdered people? Right? Like that's what people don't necessarily get. And that's what I'm trying to, want to express, I think, right here, that this is an important issue. There's realism to it. No one's going to openly give you the education you need to overthrow them. I mean, just think in a company, your boss is going to train you up as best they can, but they don't want to lose their job over training you. So they're going to train you as best as they can, but not so you're a threat. And that's what this sort of thing is in a lot of ways. And there's a lot of psychological operations. There's a lot of counter espionage. Like you said, they're burying these cases. They're creating half-truth movements where it's a little bit, but it's just crazy enough that people give up on it. And so I think that this is all important stuff to get out there. And I think people need to get educated in it and figure out how it also applies where they are. And it's not about separating from your fellow man. We are made for cooperation. It's about
100%.
community and agreeing on the terms of engagement and not being born into a system of servitude and having more control over the strings that you're attached to.
This This coming weekend, real quick, is a public event. The Republic was re-inhabited in 2012 for the United States of America by about 25,000 people. I'm going to be speaking at that event on Sunday morning for a couple of hours, talking about what I do. There is so much that people don't know, like even the element of starting your own country, getting a treaty in place with one other country is sufficient for you to be a country. Doesn't mean you have passport access to every country. That's something that you've got to get a treaty in place with these countries that you want to get accepted. You can literally do all that stuff as your own country if you've done it right. You got, whatever. And a lot of people are thinking, oh, well, we can go to an island. What do you do with the people when they show up and just want to raid you? It doesn't mean you don't, build up your castle, your
Mhm.
moat, and your systems legally. You still got to build up your systems legally so you at least have the basis and support. And you made mention of a lot of things, and one of them is going back to 1940 when the Jews and beyond the Jews, Afghanis, the Russians were taken by train loads. There was 25,000 people. I remember seeing this one picture, 25,000 people, and somebody said, "Look, they're forcing them on the trains." And I looked at the picture and I said, "There's 25,000 people. Would you agree?" And they're like, "Yeah, probably." And I'm like, "There's five dudes with guns. Tell
Yeah.
me how that, tell me how that's not voluntary. It takes three guys to overpower one guy with a gun. Tell me how that is not voluntary." And it's the same system with the IRS. And I can really break down the IRS for people to make them completely comfortable. But the IRS does not come after people that don't contract with them. They go after people that contract and lie. They go after fraudulent filings, and that's the bottom line. But we have successfully helped tens of thousands of people. This is something that we are not novices at, and I know 100% what I'm doing. We have a big staff of people that are supporting people, and we have a mechanism that works. Now we're trying to take all this data that we're doing and knowledge base it for people and make a cohesive training plan and all that stuff.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. People don't get it. So many people are living hand to mouth. First, you try to make money, then you got some money, and then you got to protect it. So then you get a tax advisor, and now you got your tax advisor, but then you start making more money, and then you got lawsuits and stuff. So now you got to build a legal team. And then if you become rich enough, now you need an army because the bandits and the guys with guns are coming over the fences. And so this is like a natural progression. And right now, to a certain extent, that's what people are. I think there's people that are just trying to live hand to mouth, and there's people that have funds and are trying to protect it and realizing that, oh, there's a legal aspect of this game. And that's kind of the progression of it. And everybody, if you're not getting paid, you need to go listen to all my other interviews. You need to participate. You need to contact Kelby and myself. You need to figure out, get some cash flowing. Once you got some cash flowing, you got to figure out how to protect it, because making the money isn't enough. Like, it's great. Okay, you've got your money and you've diversified your portfolio. Guess what? Kanye West lost like $1 billion net worth or whatever he lost, a couple hundred million overnight. People with bank accounts closed get debanked all the time.
All the
There's,
time,
and that's, we
like
just,
all of Vietnam.
yeah. So it's, I mean, it depends what level of the game you want to play. We're here for an experience. We're not here to sit on the beach drinking mojitos. And so again, you have to maybe choose, but that's why you have to plug into people like Kelby and myself, because that's, I think, the original intent. None of this was necessarily done for nefarious means in the beginning, but just like, and I love the example, like I said, the essay, The Law by Frederick Bastiat, that what begins, with good intentions to protect individual rights, life, liberty, and property, evolves into a system of systemic pillaging, and then socialism at the end, and this organization of the world and categorization of the world, which is just, people feel it. It's just sickly. So, all right, Kelby, if people want to learn more, where's the best place for them to go and find out? How do they
Yeah,
get?
two things. Download our app on your phone, His Advocates TV. His Advocates TV. We have a network television broadcasting station called His Advocate. We're on every TV in the world. You can find it on Roku, Amazon, Android, Apple, Samsung, LG. But also go to hisadvocates.org, hisadvocates.org. Register there for free. We can have somebody reach out and talk to you about what we do, how we do it. Everything's toll free, no cost to you to figure it out. We do have a VIP membership, very small. You can get involved, and we help basically people remove themselves from the things to which they don't realize they don't have to do. And I always ask somebody, "Have you ever signed the Declaration of Independence?" They're like, "No, that was meant for 66 men." I'm like, "No, that was meant for you."
Yeah.
And so that's one of the things we add to our application when we're filing it with the Department of State. We affix our mark permanently to the Declaration of Independence, and we become a party to being one of the people.
That's powerful. I love that. I love that. Go check out hisadvocates.org. Go download the app. Follow Kelby Smith, Kelby Smith. Buy the book. Buy the book. The book. If you don't have a big budget, just go get the Kindle. It's just a couple of bucks. Get the paperback
Couple
too.
bucks.
You know, save yourself years. You could sit there all night and not figure out this stuff on your own. So just go plug in and get the
100%.
knowledge. All right,
I wish I
Kelby.
had a guy like me. Thank you, brother. Appreciate your time.